Hi, I'm Patrick Dunnican. At Gibbons, we believe that citizens need to be informed about the complex issues that affect their lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by Gibbons PC. With 200 attorneys, Gibbons is a full-service law firm focused on handling major matters for mid-market companies and mid-market matters for Fortune 500 companies. RWJ Barnabas Health. NJM Insurance Group, serving New Jersey's drivers, homeowners, and business owners for more than 100 years. Operating Engineers, Local 825. PSE&G, committed to providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. Rowan University Institute for Public Policy and Citizenship. And by IBEW Local 102, lighting the path, leading the way. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ. And by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey.
Welcome to a very special edition of State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We are, in fact, taping this program on March 20th. It'll be seen after that. I want to make it clear, we're not the news. We're not CNN. We're not NJTV News. We're not the folks you're going to get the most up-to-date information from, but we are the folks here at State of Affairs, together with our colleagues here at East Main Media Studios in Little Falls, New Jersey, where we are, in fact, taping with a skeleton, but very brave and proud and strong crew here, trying to make sense longer term. What does this all mean? So the interviews that we're about to conduct are with people who aren't just simply covering the coronavirus story, but thinking about it from a variety of levels. Our first guest I want to introduce is Tom Bergeron. He is the editor and chief content officer at ROI-NJ. Most importantly, Tom, as we speak right now, you and your family, you doing okay?
We're all good. We're hanging in there like everybody else, taking precautions, trying to figure out the best way to get through this. And, you know, things are changing by the day and the hour.
And obviously, speaking of being safe, social distancing requires remote Skype, other forms of interviews. And we're on blue jeans. Just want to acknowledge that there are all kinds of ways people are communicating. I'm not sure that Tom's wearing his jeans. Jokes are inappropriate right now.
Yeah, I was thrilled when you said blue jeans. That's our standard work apparel. So all good.
Let me try this, Tom. Every day, every minute, every hour, the numbers are changing in terms of, and numbers are people. However, if we take a step back and ask, what do you believe the most significant economic, longer-term impact could be, likely to be, if this goes on for the next couple of months? What could it be on the state of New Jersey, particularly as it relates to business and employment, et cetera?
Well, look, obviously, when we come out of this on the other side, I think it's fair to say that there's going to be some unemployment numbers up. There's going to be some businesses that don't quite make it through. And from a lot of the business leaders that I've been talking to, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we can get to that for a second. But the people that are in the most trouble now are, you know, look, we've had a great run with the economy for 5-10 years now. And people who weren't in the best position had been humming along because the economy is great. These are the ones that are really going to struggle to come through this. You know, this is going to be tough for everybody. There's going to need to be a lot of federal intervention. We'll talk about that. But if your business was not sound and you've been humming along because the economy is great, well, you're going to have some big issues.
It's interesting. The government, I mean, all kinds of folks who have been, I'm not going to argue some philosophical question about, oh, we need less government, let's shut down the government. They get in the way of the business. And now virtually everyone is asking, where is the government? What is the government doing? We need the government to do more. Question as it relates to the economy of our state of New Jersey, which is influenced and impacted by the states around us and the world. How much can and should state government first be doing? And then the feds as it relates to our economy?
Well, look, those are great questions. And the comment you made, I think, is really smart. Usually the business community wants no government regulation or intervention whatsoever. This shows how crazy these times are. The people that I'm talking to, and not just healthcare people, want government intervention. And quite frankly, they want a lot of it. You and I have had this conversation plenty of times. What businesses want is certainty in any situation. So right now, what the business community is saying is we need to have more answers. We can plan, we can work out, we know things are tough, we know things are disastrous, but we need to have a plan. So what I mean by that is twofold. One, I'm hearing more and more business leaders, not just healthcare leaders, saying we should do a complete state shutdown. Don't care if it's a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And any of this can be taken to the federal level, but they're thinking about the state level. They said, we know this is coming. We know we need to make big actions. And they applaud Governor Murphy for being out in front of all of this. They wish he would take further steps. I have heard repeatedly from business people that they wouldn't mind a 1, 2, 3 week shutdown just to try to curb it.
But I'm sorry,
they
Tom.
want certainty in the
sorry
financial situation.
Tom, let me interrupt for 1 second.
And it's not so much, federal grants that we're going to need. It's just the idea of people have said, are we going to do a 1 month moratorium on mortgages and rents for both individuals and people? Are we going to count this as an act of God for insurance purposes, right? How is that going to come? They want to see strong, specific action, not incremental action, so they can start planning. If they know the banks are going to forgive mortgages for a month, if they know that how the insurance is going to pay off, they're going to be a lot easier for them to make decisions for their people. Look, this is happening in real time. This is difficult for everybody. And, it's nice to just say, snap your fingers and get it done. But they're looking for more action, more restrictive action, and specifics on what's going to happen moving forward. And every day they're hoping for more and more.
A special edition of State of Affairs. We're taping this program on on March 20th, 2020. And so I want to be clear that Tom is talking about things that some of them are current, some of them in terms of minute by minute decisions that could and may be made by the governor, by the president, by others who make these decisions. Let me ask you this. The idea of sending people money, $1,000, say it's $2,000. I don't know what the number is. The federal government saying we're going to send $1,000 to every American based on some economic model. How much impact could that have? And for those who say, hey, the feds are jumping in with that, what does that really mean?
Well, look, me personally, I've got 5 kids. So you want to send money based on the household? I'm all in favor of it. But in all seriousness, I've talked to business leaders about this. It would be a nice shot in the arm. In theory, if it comes in combination with mortgages being, I don't want to say forgiven, just delayed a month, right? Everybody's mortgage payment goes 1 month longer and we pretend like this month doesn't exist, or the government steps in some way. So if you take that biggest payment out and you give everybody X number of dollars, 500, 1,000, 2,000. In theory, they're going to run right to ShopRite and Wegmans and Stu Leonard's and put that back into the economy. They're going to run to some of the small businesses that they want to support, buy some pizza, buy some Chinese food, buy some takeout. Those type of things would have an immediate impact. More than that, I think it would be a psychological impact for consumers and business owners. Now, is that going to solve the long-term problem that we send everybody $1,000, inflation issues aside? No, it's not. There needs to be stronger grants from the government, loan type forgiveness, programs like that to do it. But from a short-term interest, it would do a lot. And I think one thing that hasn't come up, and I've heard some healthcare people talk about this, the psychological damage that this is going to do to people. And it's not just the uncertainty of the world that they're living in. I had a healthcare leader tell me the other day, said, look, we want to tell everybody to stay in their houses for 2 weeks. That's great. And for some people, that's all good. But most people, there's going to be behavioral health issues where people are going to feel trapped. God forbid people that are in a 1 or a 2 person household, there's a loneliness factor, there's a depression factor that comes into it. So we really need to be concerned about the psychological issues that come with it. So you want to send everybody money, that's going to make people feel good. It's going to make business people feel good. It's going to give you a short-term fix that quite frankly, we probably need, but it doesn't serve the long-term economic interests of businesses in New Jersey.
I want to follow up on Tom Bergeron's point. By the way, if you're listening to us or you're watching right now, this is Tom Bergeron. We're talking to editor and Chief Content Officer at our ROI-NJ. Check them out. They're incredibly valuable. Their information is spot on. They're a great resource, a media partner of ours. But I want to say this, Tom. It's interesting how you mentioned the behavioral health issues, the mental health issues. Those of us who have teenagers, and by the way, I act as if teenagers are the only ones. Everyone is struggling with this on a lot of levels. I understand and I agree that public health is first in terms of our physical safety, but Tom Bergeron actually is onto something. There are clearly, and my job is not to editorialize, there are clearly going to be long-term mental, emotional, behavioral health issues that we're going to have to deal with and be there for those who are struggling. And to me, I feel like we should be able to talk about those things and still try to keep people being safe. Final word on that, Tom, before we let you go and get back to the important work you're doing every day?
Yeah, I think you're right. And we were having this discussion in our office the other day. There are people in the generation above mine. I'll take my mother, for instance. Her life started with fleeing Lithuania from World War II, right? So that's where she started. And now she's at home in Virginia. She's 77 years old. She's worried about coronavirus. This is bookending parts of the lifetime. That impact is crazy. But then let's take that other generation, that millennial generation. And we've been saying for a while, you had, the Great Recession or the economic downturn of 2008. You had a lot of high school and college kids at the time watched how that impacted their friends, their families, their neighbors, their aunts and uncles. And that gave them a jaded view of the business world, of government, of what companies will do for you. They saw their parents and their neighbors and their friends who had worked for corporations get laid off, get furloughed, and they didn't buy into the idea of a company is going to help you forever. And we always talk about the job jumping, which is a whole nother issue. But part of that is if I don't think the companies are supporting me, why should I support them? So now you're going to go forward a dozen years later, and now they have, after riding a pretty good economic drive, it's going to be a big wake-up call. No one is blaming companies this time around. Nobody's blaming the government. Look, this happened. But psychologically, that's another hit on their psyche. But now you have the generation in the workforce, the millennials, that is now the most popular generation in the workforce, that already had a double dip hit on big psychological advantages. To think that that's going to go away when coronaviruses drop is foolish. We're looking at another decade of impact on that, if not more. My own children are in high school and college. They didn't get the recession of 2008. But they're going to get this one. And everyone in that generation that's coming out now is going to come out to a business world that's different than what they thought it would be.
Tom, 5 children, your mom, 77, as you said, and everyone in between. We wish your family the best. I know that you're continuing to do important work. Hey, Tom, listen, best to you and your family. Take care, my friend.
Great. Thank you. Take care.
This is Steve Adubato. This is State of Affairs, a special edition coming to you from East Main Media Studios in Little Falls, the terrific team that's helping to make this happen. We're not reporting the news. We're trying to make sense of what all this means long term. We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Welcome back to a remote, very special edition of State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We're actually taping this interview with the gentleman you're about to see very shortly. He's a Republican leader in the State Assembly, Jon Bramnick. He's taping from his home office, I believe, or his office. We are taping at East Main Media Studios like everyone else in the media world. We're trying to do the best with what we have, and we have a great team behind us. And most importantly, Assemblyman, hoping that you and praying that you and your family are doing well.
Thank you. And I feel the same about your family. So everyone's doing well right now, but everyone's concerned.
So, John, let's do this. You and I have had so many conversations on state of affairs over the years about tax policy, about economics, about the budget, about a whole range of things. We are taping on the 20th. This show will be seen after that. What should we be talking about? If we're not the news, we're not going to be updating on what the latest numbers are and what the latest policies are. But what should we be talking about right now for people that are watching this a couple of weeks after? That still matters.
The only thing that matters is that we're taking care of neighbors and we're working together to get through one of the most difficult periods in the history of this world. And that should be the sole focus right now, making sure we think about our neighbors, our friends, our family, and especially the people on the front lines fighting this coronavirus.
Let me follow up on that, Assemblyman. We're speaking with Assemblyman Jon Bramnick, the Assembly Republican leader. We're taping on the 20th of March. Let me ask you this, John. You said those are the only things we should be thinking about, but the longer-term economic impact that it's going to have on a whole range of industries. I can't imagine an industry that's not being affected. What is the role, in your view, of state government, then we'll talk federal government, to be of assistance to these folks when we do ultimately get, quote unquote, through this?
State government has to make sure that we do our best to make people as whole as possible. We also have to give them the confidence that we're going to get through this, that we're going to be there and make sure we have the backs of everyone. That means individuals and businesses. And that when we get through this, that we're going to do whatever we have to do to get New Jersey back on its feet. In the meantime, we have to listen to infectious disease experts, those people who are at the national and state level, and we have to cooperate, and we have to do so in a unified method. Afterwards, I can guarantee you that Republicans and Democrats will be coming together to make sure that we help each and every New Jerseyan. And I don't think you're going to see any politics when that occurs.
John, Assemblyman Bramnick, you and I have had countless conversations about bipartisanship or the lack thereof, the lack of civility. And I'm not going to get into a philosophical discussion, but you seem to be saying that you believe one of the long-term impacts of what we're dealing with, this horrific coronavirus and all of its implications, and just literally as we're taping this program on the 20th of March, things are changing and things are getting worse in a lot of cases. Let me ask you, you're saying you think Democrats and Republicans will be more civil, supportive, collaborative, collegial after this?
Yes. This is almost an invasion of our society. And one thing government is pretty good at is we do come together as Americans and New Jerseyans, and you can see that right now. You don't see any political sniping. You see everyone working together. And, I've prayed for that moment in the normal course of business. Right. And now we really need it more than ever. And that's why I think that our job now is to watch these numbers, the number of people getting sick. And we're going to know in the next 2 weeks whether or not the social distancing and all of the emergency measures are working. And if that's true, and that's my hope, and I think they will work, then we come together as a government and tell people, listen, we're going to do what is ever necessary, both sides of the aisle, period.
As Assemblyman Bramnick is speaking, this program will be seen, it looks like, early in April. So to that end, let me ask you, if we're helping people understand the role of government, Assemblyman Bramnick, what is the role, in your view, in a public health crisis like this, that the likes of which, whether it's the 1918 pandemic, whatever it is, everything I've read, that this is the worst we have faced. That question really causes me to pose really the dilemma of what is the role of the federal government versus the state? Because I believe President Trump, and again, we're not trying to date ourselves and say he said this that day or whenever, but he did say to the states, in some ways, you're on your own. Is that true? States, every man, woman, and child for themselves in every state? Really, Assemblyman?
Well, you asked me what government should do, and here's what government should do. One, make sure people are able to have food, make sure they have health care, and make sure they understand that government is working, available, and have their backs. That's number one. Look, I don't know what I don't know what President Trump said. I'm not talking about what Governor Murphy said. I'm saying we're all coming together now. And yes, this is when government must be there for everyone. and they must know that we are leading. And I think you're seeing that now at state government, and you're starting to see it at the federal government as well.
And Assemblyman Bramnick, if in fact, because you've also talked to us a lot about the budget and trying to get spending under control, does this current crisis that we're facing, and we're, again, taping on the 20th, you could see it 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, it's not going to be, hopefully we'll be better off in terms of the numbers, but the economic, the social, the health, the societal impacts will be long-term. My question is, do you say that if it busts the budget, who cares at that point? That spending, what we spend is not really relevant right now?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I'll say it. We're talking about people's lives. We're talking about making sure people can eat. We're making sure they have health care. Absolutely, I'm saying that. If there's one time you're going to spend money, is when you're going to save people's lives. And you're going to make sure our economy gets back on its feet. No question, we need to do that. Yeah, this is not the time to be counting pennies when you have a disaster like this. People are going to be unemployed. You got to make sure unemployment benefits are there. You got to make sure you have loans and grants for businesses, and you got to make sure you do whatever you have to do with the healthcare industry. As I said, yeah, correct. If you're going to spend, this is the time you're going to do it.
So let's be clear. We're also going to be speaking today remotely. He'll be down in South Jersey. The Senate President, Steve Sweeney, will be talking to him as well. And he's introduced a package of legislation that Assemblyman Bramnick, Sweeney's a Democrat, Bramnick's a Republican, but to the Assemblyman's point, party doesn't seem to mean a whole lot right now. People are coming together. That legislation, I believe there are 13 or 14 points in that. A lot of it does have to do with forgiveness. Is it forgiveness of rent for a period of time, John?
It's to stop evictions and stop foreclosures at this time. It doesn't mean necessarily that eventually you won't be responsible for rents. I also had a bill that required insurance companies to make sure they paid for all treatment. That didn't move forward. Here's my feeling about that. I want insurance companies to step up as well. And then later, if they have to raise the premiums years from now or a year from now, I'll be with them on that as well. Everyone needs to stand up and help at this point. But Steve Sweeney, always been a big fan. I'm a good friend, and I think he's doing the right thing in the Senate as well with Tom Kean Jr. And of course, Craig Kaufman and the Speaker and I did a joint press conference. We're all coming together, and that's the way it should be with Governor Murphy.
Let me put you on the spot in this sense. In terms of public distancing of public officials, as we do this program, I believe yesterday on Thursday, the 19th of March, did the legislature actually get together to vote on these things?
We did, and we did that for two reasons. One, we did stay far apart from each other. We were at least 6 feet from each other, but we passed a bill that allows us to remotely vote and hold sessions remotely. Now, that was an important bill because from now on, we'll be able to vote during this crisis and other states of emergency. We had to get down there just to get that bill done. And we wanted to show people that there are times when government must come together. Of course, there's risk. When you run for office, you're not hired to cut ribbons. You're hired to take care of situations in a crisis. We don't expect to go back. We expect to do it remotely, but that was a necessary meeting of the Assembly, and the Senate met yesterday.
To the Assemblyman's point, the idea that our government officials in the state legislature and the United States Congress, and as we speak, there are several members of the United States Congress, both parties, which feels ridiculous to even say, but members of both parties who have tested positive. One member of the House of Representatives who has 4 children, I believe, out in the western part of the nation. So the point is, social distancing for our government officials while they continue to do their work is important. So doing it remotely matters. Assemblyman Jon Bramnick, you're talking to us from Westfield right now?
I am. I'm actually in my Scotch Plains law office. I cut my staff down to a skeleton staff. Everyone has separate areas of the office. So we're keeping the office open, the law office, but we're doing it in such a way that people do not interact with each other. My guess will be what I've seen in California, and this is being taped, that I think there'll be more stringent measures as we see more people being infected. But I do believe, based on my discussions with infectious disease experts, that this will turn around. Whether it's 3 weeks, a month, 6 weeks, it will turn around based on what we're doing. And then we got to get back to business and help everybody out.
State Assemblyman Jon Bramnick from his law office in Scotch Plains, we cannot thank you enough for joining us on this edition of State of Affairs. To you, your family, your team, your distancing, we have a great team that's about 10, 15, in some cases 20 feet apart from each other making this happen. We all have to find a way to be together. Jon, all the best to you and your family. Looking forward to seeing you in our NJTV studio when we can all be together again in the not-too-distant future. Thank you, Assemblyman.
Stay well. See you, Steve. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.
This is Steve Adubato, a special edition of State of Affairs coming to you from East Main Media Studios in Little Falls, New Jersey. Day to day, check NJTV News, check NJ.com, check ROI, check News 12, check folks who are out there every day providing New Jersey news, and nationally, you know the places to turn. Most importantly, we wish you and your family, the people closest to you in your community, be safe, be smart, and we will get through this together. See you next time.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Gibbons PC, RWJ Barnabas Health, NJM Insurance Group, Operating Engineers, Local 825, ROI-NJ, Rowan University Institute for Public Policy and Citizenship, IBEW Local 102, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ, and by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey.
You may not have heard of TAVR. Raj and Sandhya have. It's the minimally invasive alternative to open heart valve replacement. RWJ Barnabas Health is New Jersey's leading TAVR provider, and we continue to perfect it. Patients are often back to their lives in just a few days. Innovative valve replacement surgery, because you can't be replaced. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.